Hello everyone, this is Bruno from Spainguru, and today I am here with Shaheen Samavati, co-founder of Spainguru.es, and also she's my wife. We have two beautiful daughters together. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Bruno.
Shaheen, this interview will go about the driving license process in Spain as an American. But first of all, can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Shaheen Samavati. I've been living in Spain for 15 years now. I moved here originally to do a master's program in Madrid and ended up staying and met Bruno, and that's the short version of the story.
Yes, where are you from originally in the States?
From Cleveland, Ohio.
Generally, okay, about like when you walk down the street and you see, Spaniards driving, or in general, you lived in Madrid, you live in Malaga, you've been in several Spanish cities, how do you see driving style here, driving rules in general, compared to the US?
I mean, at least they drive on the same side of the road, but I'd say, it's definitely more urban. It's like the way the roads are marked and everything is, I find, a little more difficult to understand compared to the US. But yeah, it's also not that different, and you get used to it.
And what made you finally say, okay, it's time for me to get a driving license in Spain?
Yeah,
because I understand you have like a lot of experience driving in the States, but here in Spain, how did you do like the first years without driving license, and when did you come up with the idea of getting one?
Yeah, well, I just got my driver's license, and it was 15 years I'd been in Spain, so obviously it wasn't essential. I'd been living here without one and not driving. Like, I was always using public transportation, or you were driving me. So, um, so why did I finally decide to get one? Mainly because of the kids. Like, we're using the car a little bit more now, and to be able to have a little more independence and do things with them and using the car.
Probably also the fact that we always lived in quite large cities. We live in Malaga, we live in Madrid. Public transportation in those cities, especially Madrid, is top in the world. I guess it wasn't really necessary to have a car for everything, like daily life.
No, absolutely. And I was, even today, don't really need the car. Since I've had my driver's license, I've only used it a few times. So, but it was nice to have. And I thought, it was good to have it at this point. That's it.
Many Americans confuse the NIE number and the TIE card. And it is a requirement to have a residency card for taking the test. Did you find out this the hard way, or did you know it?
I mean, I've had my residency card for 15 years, so it's pretty, I don't know, it didn't come up. I mean, you have to just like, when you start the process, you have to give them your identification and things, so that they like create they start the trámite for you. So I had to give them my ID and my medical thing and some other stuff at the beginning of the process. And It was something that the driving school asked for. The driving school facilitates everything if you go through a driving school to do your test. But one thing is, you're not required to have a driver's license unless you're a resident of Spain, and you're not supposed to be in Spain long term if you're not a resident. So if you're applying for a driver's license, you probably do have a residency card.
The thing is that many people take a long time to get the actual card. This is the big problem. There's no appointments in police stations or foreign offices to go, and so that they take your fingerprints, and it can be several months without actually having the physical card in your possession, and you need it. And that's the reason why of this question.
By the way, I should say you do need a driver's license to drive in Spain at any time, but the first 6 months you're in Spain, you can drive with a foreign license. You don't have to have a local one.
So there's two options to take the exam. One is going por libre, which means independently, okay? And another one is going through a driving school, okay? Did you ever consider doing it independently since you already had the driving experience, or you just went directly to a driving school?
Yeah, this is like the mythical like por libre option that I've heard people talk about, but I've never actually heard of someone who's done that, except for maybe one person in the Facebook group who claims to have done it. But basically, I don't know how it would work on the practical part of the exam. Like, definitely on the theoretical part, you can make an appointment, you can go take the theoretical exam and on your own, and you don't have to do it through a driving school. The thing is, like, most driving schools offer like a package where that is like free as part of the package to take the practical exam. So there wouldn't really be a reason not to do it through the driving school. To me, I don't understand how. I guess it could be possible to do the practical part without the driving school. The only thing is you have to do it in a special type of car that is like, with the usually when you take the driving exam, you take it with your driving instructor who is next to you and has the power to like control your car. And it's in a special car that has those controls. If you're doing it on your own, I have no idea how that would work. And if you can do it in your own car or not. I didn't actually explore that option. I just decided like, okay, the way people do it here is through the driving school. I'm just going to do it the standard way. But of course, there's a cost involved in that. So if you're really tight on budget, you might consider trying to do it on your own.
Let's talk about the theory exam, okay? What was your reaction when you first saw the English translated theory questions?
Well, I actually did the theory exam in Spanish, and I did the entire like course and stuff in Spanish. I have heard from people who've done it in English that, and I have like looked at some of the practice exam questions in English, that they're not very well translated. So you have to just really like memorize them and like get used to it. And it really helps if you speak Spanish because a lot of it is like literally translated from Spanish.
It must have been very difficult for you to read that English since, well, Shaheen is also the CEO and co-founder of Beta Content, which is a translation company. So I guess it would be shocking to see how those questions are translated.
Well, I see it a lot.
You're used to it.
Yeah.
Which study tools actually help you? I heard of Practica tests, certain apps, okay, and English-speaking schools also, YouTube. What would you recommend?
Well, if you're going through driving school, they have like most of them offer like an intensive course. So I did the in-person intensive course. I did it in Spanish, which if you want to practice Spanish, it's like a Spanish class, an advanced Spanish class, because I learned a lot of new vocabulary. Like, I think there's a lot of hype around the test. Like I was saying, the actual difficulty of the test is not more difficult than the one I took in the US, which means it's very easy. Most of them are super straightforward questions about like drinking alcohol or like what should you do if you're drunk? Should you drive or not drive? Like this kind of questions. But then you have like a few like tricky ones. So basically you have to study all of the material just to make sure that you get those ones right, because you can only get 3 wrong on the test or you fail. I think it's similar in the US. The only thing in the US, you can do it, at least in Ohio, you can do it for free and take it as many times as you want until you pass. In Spain, you have to pay 100 euros every time you take it. So it's like more high stakes. Then people study a lot for it. Especially local people are like really into studying. I feel like I felt from other people who took the test, the advice was, oh, you really need to do like hundreds of test questions or whatever. I mean, I think you could probably just do a few practice tests and then go try and take the test and you might pass it on the first try. But it's like a little bit luck of the draw of the questions that you get because they're random. You get like randomly assigned questions. It's like in a computer system and I think it was touch screen and you just have to choose and you have half an hour. You have an entire minute for every multiple choice question, which is quite a lot of time. So you can really think about it and choose the best answer. But some of them are things like about speed limits or specific signs in Spain, and you have to know what it means basically to get it right. So
and did you use any apps or something, that people can download or use online to help you out with that?
There are like a bunch of free apps you can use, but they're all usually your driving school would like have an app that comes, like they give you a subscription to an app as part of it.
Was it difficult to find an available exam date? Did you end up checking other provinces to get a slot sooner?
No, there wasn't. Yeah, there was availability in Malaga, so I didn't have a problem with that. I've heard horror stories about that, but in my case, it was the theoretical exam, and I know several other people doing it at the same time as me who were able to get an appointment like within a week. And then for the practical, sometimes it takes a little longer, but usually within a month or 2, you can get a spot.
How did it go? Did you pass the theory exam in the first attempt, or did the tricky wording caught you off guard?
No, I got all of the questions right on my first theoretical exam. So I really deliberated over every question because, like I said, you have a lot of time. I had studied a lot for it. I think I studied like probably more than necessary. I did like a lot of practice exams on the app. I did the in-person theoretical class. So if you do the 5 days or it's sometimes even more time, my school did it in 5 days, like 5 days intensive course. You cover all the course material that there is. And if you take the exam right after that, like you should pass it because I mean,
you have it fresh in your mind. I mean, I would say that probably the advice is that don't let too much time pass in between your practice time and when you have to go to the exam, because you will forget it. You will not have it fresh in your mind.
Exactly. You should just like cram for a week and then do the test, whether that's doing the intensive classes or doing like lots of test exams on an app.
Now let's talk about medical and psychological exam. How was the required medical exam, and what was your experience with the hand-eye coordination psychological test?
No, that was a pretty straightforward test where they just, make you do this thing with a little joystick and keep the ball inside of a thing. But yeah, just to make sure that your coordination and vision is good. Yeah, we had to do a vision
do you
test as
remember
well.
how much did it cost?
I think it was 30 euros.
Now let's talk about the practical exam and driving school experience. How many driving schools did you have to call before finding one with availability? Was it as chaotic as many Americans describe?
No. No, the first driving school I went to, there was one next to my house, so I went there first. I then decided to compare it to a couple of others, but in the end I just decided to go with the one closest to my house, and they'll take your money immediately. Like any driving school will sign you up on the spot, but then you have to, I guess, wait for when is the first theoretical thing, intensivo class available, and then when are the driving classes available. That was one thing I didn't realize there is usually a waiting list to start on the driving classes. And other friends have gone to different driving schools. Some of them had to wait even longer. I waited 2 or 3 weeks from when I passed the theoretical exam to when they could fit me in to start doing my practical classes. I know others who have had to wait 6 weeks or something before they could start doing classes. I never understood why it took people so long to get their driving exam. It's well, especially for someone who was already driving in another country. Why would it take you 3 months to get your Spanish driver's license? But it does. It's not because the process is hard, it's just because it's inefficient. So just from the time you do each of the steps, and there's availability, and then there's the time that you can do the exam and everything, and the 2 different exams. In the US, you go in and you do the written exam and you do the practical one right on the same day, and that's it. But here it's really bureaucratic. The whole thing with the driving school, of course, is a racket, and it's a conflict of interest in a way that the person who is charging you to do the classes is also there during your exam and has a relationship usually with the examiner. And I've definitely heard that people your driving instructor can basically influence whether or not you pass the test.
Yeah.
Because of the feedback they give to the examiner. If they think you're ready or what, they might kind of judge you harder or not, or be more lenient or not in the way they, apply the points on your exam. So, and it is a big conflict of interest, because if you fail the exam, you are required to take 5 more classes, and they get paid for those classes.
Did you choose to take the exam in an automatic or manual car, and what factors influenced that decision?
Yeah, I was actually thought of bringing that up earlier when you were asking about driving in Spain, because obviously the biggest difference is that most people drive manual transmission here compared to automatic in the US. And I decided I took the test in a manual car, even though that's part of the reason why I took 15 classes. It's I wanted to get used to using the gears and everything. I didn't have much experience with that. And you can take the test in the automatic, and a lot of driving schools, increasingly so, have automatic cars available. But if you take the test in an automatic car, you're not authorized to, it's written on your driving license that you can only drive an automatic car. So not to have that limitation, and to get something out of the driving classes, to learn a new skill, I decided to go ahead and do it in a manual transmission. It
used to be 99% manual transmission cars in Spain, but now with more regulations, more electric cars going on, and people just getting more used to it, people are actually paying the premium to have an automatic transmission, because let's be real, there is a premium for buying an automatic transmission car in Europe. And in our case, of course, our car was with manual, so it made sense that Shaheen took the test with manual. So
a lot of Americans I know don't have any intention of ever driving a manual transmission car, and
exactly,
they buy automatic and they do the test in automatic, and that works too. It's definitely easier. If you don't plan to drive manual, might as well. The only thing is, if you want to be able to drive other people's cars, because 90% of other people in Spain are going to have manual transmissions cars. So
what were the strictest expectations from the examiner? Mirror checks, roundabouts, hesitation, lane discipline?
I think it really depends on your examiner. Like I was saying before, it depends on kind of what mood they're in, and and everything. I feel my examiner was really it was his last one of the day. And I feel he wasn't even paying attention very much to what I was doing. I guess he was kind of because I realized I forgot to put my signal or this and that. And I was like overthinking things that he might mark me off on, and then in the end, he barely marked me anything. And I do think part of it is if they see you, if you seem like you know how to drive and you're like confident, they're not going to be so tiquismiquis. That's a Spanish expression, but they're not going to be so particular
So picky.
about marking you on every single thing. If they see that you're really nervous and don't look like you know how to drive, they might be more likely to mark things like that. Like there's a list of everything that's called like a minor, what do you say? Like, yeah, like a minor falta and a major one. And then there's like the elementary one. And I think you're allowed to have like 6 minor, and that's things like forgetting your signal, or I went into the bus lane too early when I needed to turn right, and they marked me as that. And there was something else, but like, yeah, so there's things that are minor that you can have like 6 of them. There's you can have 1 major thing, there's a list of what those are. And then if it's eliminatario, which is usually like not respecting right of way, if you don't do that, if that happens, you're like automatically fail.
Did being an experienced American driver make the test harder because you had to unlearn certain habits?
Probably yes. I mean, there's definitely things that when I was in the classes like that I was doing that the driving instructor kept mentioning. I don't know, like I would turn on my signal too early, or I don't know. There was like little things that are like habits that I have that he was saying were wrong. So, but in the end, were not so consequential. But he's like, it's fine if you do that. Just like don't do it on the test.
Did your driving school or the DGT, Dirección General de Tráfico, make any administrative mistakes that caused delays or extra stress?
Not really. No, that was pretty smooth. I mean, the only thing that was like a little bit stressful was dealing with the driving school. I felt like they were disorganized sometimes, and they were very like from one day, like they didn't give me in advance like what to expect and to know like this is going to happen this time, then I was like always asking them and always trying to figure out like, okay, when is my next class going to be? Like they would always schedule my class like one day to the next. From what I've heard, it's not that different at other driving schools. They have like 5-star and like tons of reviews on Google, so that was the surprising thing, because I thought like, oh, they must be the best. But
you need to read in between the lines of the reviews of Google, I guess. Talking about bureaucracy, delays, and recognition of experience, did you attempt to get your U.S. driving license recognized by the DGT, Reconocimiento de Antigüedad? How complicated was that process?
I don't know anything about that process.
So basically, you didn't do anything to be recognized all the years that you've been driving in the U.S.
What they told me in the driving school was that it is recognized, but I don't know if maybe I do need to take some extra steps. I don't know. What they told me is that I don't need to put the L, and also when it comes to like points calculation, because if you're like a new driver and you have a speeding ticket or something, like the number of points you have is less to start with, so it impacts you more. But they told me because I was driving already that I should have more points, but it's true. I don't know how to check that. So.
Yeah, so definitely like find out about reconocimiento de antigüedad, which is recognizing your, the time that you drove in the US, because it can have that impact, okay? More points, there's a point system here. Every time you get a fine or whatever, they reduce your points. Those points also have a very big impact on how much you pay for your insurance as well, and also the possibility of not having to have the L sign behind.
Yeah, that's just a sticker, a big green L that you put on your car so people know that you're a new driver. But like what I understood is if you're pulled over and you can show that you keep your other driver's license with you to prove that you were already driving, then you don't have to have the L. I don't know, but I haven't been pulled over, so haven't had to deal with that.
How did it feel the moment you finally passed? Relief, freedom, pride, frustration, all of the above?
Yeah, definitely just relief to be done with the process, because like we said, it was a very long, tedious process for what it is. Like it just took way more time than it should.
If you could give Americans 3 pieces of advice to avoid the pain you went through, what would they be?
Well, I was kind of alluding to this before, but definitely like to minimize the number of classes that you need to take, just take the practical classes as close to the exam as possible. So, and as soon as they let you like schedule the exam, because usually this exam will be scheduled a few weeks in advance, and then you have those 3 weeks before or whatever to take all the classes. Like try not to take too many classes before that. And maybe don't start the process right before August. Everything shuts down, and there are no driving tests in August, and the school shut down for 2 weeks too.
Do you think most Americans underestimate how tough the Spanish driving license process is, or did it end up being easier than you expected?
Yeah, I think, like I was saying, it's not like hard. It's just tedious. It's just and expensive.
Let's talk about that. How much did you end up paying for the whole process, and can you break it down for everyone?
Yeah, I basically spent around 600 euros. So it's expensive.
So how do you break down those 600 euros?
Well, I
More or less, round numbers.
yeah, and I would say that like it all was spent through the driving school except for the medical exam, which I had to pay separately. It was like 30 euros, like I said. But then the driving school, most of them offer some like oferta, like it's really confusing, like really not transparent, the pricing of the driving schools. Like some of them have this offer, like do the whole thing for 4.99 or whatever, or 2.99, like 300 euros. But I'm for sure that if you sign up for one of those 300 euros things, in the end, there's like add-ons that make you spend more. But in my school, it was like 100 euros offer and it included the matriculation fee. It included theoretical intensive course. It included access to the app for the theoretical, and that was pretty much it. And then if you got that package, you also were able to access this abono of 12 course classes for a discounted price, and that was like another 200 euros for that. So basically, I was in like 300 you have to spend like for sure, and then like additional classes on top of that that I ended up paying individually were like 30 euros each. And then you have like to pay for the exam itself, which is like 100 for the theoretical and 100 for the practical. And if you have to retake them, the theoretical, it's like 50 if you have to retake it, and within a certain amount of time. And then the practical, I'm not sure. I think it's 100 every time. So yeah, if you end up having to take the exam more than once, you also have to take more classes, which is like another 30 euros every class, or you have to buy another bono. So anyway, it's just like,
yeah, it is an spectrum, and there's actually no top ceiling. No, you can continue not passing the exam and paying more, so it can continue growing.
I know people have spent thousands on it.
Yes, actually thousands or 1,500. So I would say 600 euros is in the lower part of the spectrum, not the lowest possible, but in the lowest part, taking classes. How much time, let's say in hours, you think you had to spend together with studying and the driving lessons and going to the exam? How many hours?
I'm thinking like 20 hours on the theoretical, and for the, like I said, 15 classes that are like 40 minutes each for the practical, plus watching some YouTube videos.
20 hours more in the practical part. So we had 40 hours so far.
20 hours for the theoretical, and then maybe another 20 hours on the...
So we have 40 hours now, and then how much time for passing the exam, etc., etc.
I mean, that was all the preparation. Then there's just the time waiting. So like I said, I started the process like in June, and I finished it in the end of September. So
basically it is a tedious process that can take several weeks or months, but really if you compress it into the amount of time that you actually spend on it, it would be about 40 hours, 50 hours.
Yeah. I was going to say, if the fastest time possible, I think you could possibly do it. If you weren't doing it in the summer season and you planned everything perfectly and had availability in your driving school, would probably be like 6 weeks is like the absolute fastest you could do it. But unlikely because that the availabilities line up.
Okay. Well, I think we went through all the questions. I really, really appreciate your take on the process of getting a Spanish driving license. Thank you so much, Shaheen, for joining us today. It was a true pleasure.
Yeah, thanks for having me.